Florida has been able to find their rhythm since their only loss of the season came almost 2 weeks ago. Head coach Todd Golden previewed tonight's game with the Tigers.
Just there is simply no nights off. We come off probably one of the better weeks in Florida basketball history in a while, and we come back home and we have a really, really tough challenge to not allow ourselves off the hook thinking that it's going to be easy being here. Our guys have been really good that way, but Missouri is going to be incredibly challenging, and I think Coach Gates has done a great job this year. They're unique. I think that's something that's tricky with Missouri. They're a difficult scout because they do a lot of things different than a lot of other teams in the league.
Gators and Tigers tonight in the O-Dome. Tip off at 9 o'clock. Catch the game live on 10:10 a.m. It's 56 degrees at 11:59. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dawes.
Hey! This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL. Switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Ladies, I have to admit, I am very sad that football season is literally coming to a close right before our very own eyes.
But basketball is here. Come on now,
And I love
Lauren.
college basketball, as you know, but...
Especially right now, in particular.
Especially right now when my team only has one loss, as Molly just alluded to in the update. But it's still not the same. And look, I'll be locked in at 9 p.m. tonight, don't get me wrong. But I don't get the same energy watching non-my team, so any team other than my team on like a Saturday. Let's say it's Duke, whoever Duke played this week when Cooper Flag went for 42.
Yep.
Okay, Duke, Notre Dame, that's right. We were watching that game. I don't get the same level of excitement for that as I do when I get locked into watching Notre Dame, Texas A&M to start the season. You
Now,
know?
what about when, Notre Dame, Texas A&M was a good game. I guess like when Alabama is beating up on McNeese State. They don't even have a football team. Yeah.
But like any sort of Power 5 versus Power 5, well, Power 4 versus Power 4 now in college football. Like that every Saturday, I'm juiced, even if Florida's not even playing. College basketball, we have it on, and then it's like, okay, I'll watch. And I'll watch the end of a game that's
Why
super
you need
close,
a multi-TV
like
setup.
Which we have.
You need either the multi-TV or
I
the
have
quad
that,
box.
but I don't have the juice for it. That's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing.
And I know Taylor could care less about college basketball.
Yeah, and that's the problem. For me, it's more so like I don't even like basketball is so far down on my list of things I like. And so, but I'm in my countdown of like baseball season's about to start. So that's when my world shifts to baseball as soon as football's over, which this year I'm get a national championship to cheer for. So at least it's going a little longer than it has the previous years for me. But the drop off of excitement is a lot for me because I'm just not a big basketball fan whatsoever. And I'll once it's March Madness, I'll tune in a lot more and I'll get a little bit more interested. But it's just definitely far down on my list. So, but I do start thinking about baseball. But to your point, Lauren, I feel like football it feels like it takes so long to get there. And we're like, okay, it's finally here. Football's starting, and then next thing you know, we're like, football's over. What happened? How did this season go by so fast? Yeah. And granted, I like the off season. I think that the off seasons it's fun because there's so much. Like NFL does such a good job of just keeping you interested constantly. Obviously, we have until almost mid-February that football's being played up to the Super Bowl this year, the 9th, I believe it is. But then pretty much right after that, you're going into the combine, and then you're going into free agency, and then you're talking about the draft, and then it's OTAs, and then it's camp, and then you're pretty much like, okay, training camp's here. And so it does at least hold you and give you things. College football, not as much. You have like the spring games, and then you're just nothing.
Yeah, and now some college coaches don't even love spring football. They want it to shift more like the NFL. Don't take away my spring football games. That's one of the things I absolutely love. Mia, what drives me crazy is someone like Taylor, when we go to fill out our brackets ahead of March Madness, who hasn't watched any college basketball, she'll do better than me on the bracket, and I'll feel like I was locked in since November, and yet she'll do better.
I mean, it's going to become the same way, I think, with the college football playoff. That's one of the more exciting byproducts that people need to cherish, the idea of filling out a bracket. You could have watched no college basketball this year. You could watch no college football. I know most of you Heeligans out there do. But if you didn't, and you just sit down and you get to pick, well, this team sounds like fun, or I don't know, back in the day, my mom, this is one of my like peak childhood memories. My mom always picked Gonzaga, even after and before the Adam Morrison run. And she just was like, trust me, Gonzaga to the Sweet 16 every year, just put it down. And it's honestly proved to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it's one of those fun things. As a kid, I loved writing zags.
Yeah.
I picked them solely because my mom told me to, and I loved writing zags. And so I think you're going to have a similar byproduct in college football. And you could in the National Football League. It's just that, needless to say, it doesn't necessarily have the same zing to it.
Well, the NFL is such a behemoth that I feel like even if you don't like sports, you still know certain names. Like you still know Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce maybe for other reasons outside of football, but you still know, I feel like a lot of these guys, a Matthew Stafford. Like the fact that we could end up, by the way, with a Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff in the NFC Championship game would be so juicy.
That's awesome to me.
But I don't know necessarily predict that that's going to happen. But okay, so this got me thinking when it comes to, we have the final 8 teams in the NFL, the Elite 8, as it were, in the NFL. The Jags, yes, were here just 3 years ago, but we won't talk about that today. So we have the Texans and the Chiefs. They kick off Saturday at 4:30. I'm not going to ask you who the better quarterback is in that matchup because there's not a single person outside of maybe some crazy Texans fans who would say C.J. Stroud is the better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. But then we've got Saturday night, Commanders at the Lions. Who's the better quarterback? I know Jaden Daniels is just a rookie.
Yeah.
So most people are probably going to say Jared Goff because of the
Goff,
experience. But wouldn't you, in today's day and age of the NFL, with how dangerous mobile quarterbacks could be or can be and are, wouldn't you lean a little bit towards Jaden Daniels with how calm he stays?
I think so much of it stems from the perception of Ben Johnson, the perception of the run game, big picture topics, Lauren, in 2025, 2024. The fact that we want to talk about, well, Jared Goff's a great quarterback because he has a good run game. We no longer just look at him and label him as a game manager.
Yeah.
It's not the de facto response. That in and of itself is what changes that argument, because I think even 3 or 4 years ago, you would look at this game and it doesn't matter that Jaden Daniels is a rookie. It doesn't matter that Jared Goff is on arguably the best team in the NFL. The perception would be, well, he's a game manager and he's electric, and that settles that quarterback debate for that game. Now I think because you don't just view someone as, well, they're just they do what they're asked to do. Instead, the perception is they do what they're asked to do and they do it exceedingly well, and they have a hand in the game plan with the offensive coordinator because they work in sync together. That says to me they're a high IQ player, and therefore the debate can also stem and push to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me it goes beyond 1 year, and that's what I'm looking at. Like Jared Goff has done this for many years, where he is, and especially in recent years, being able to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And I think that, I think Jaden Daniels just does some really good things. I'm still hesitant because I do think he's a product more so of the way they've built and made it really easy for him. They also, I just saw a stat yesterday, they had the easiest schedule in the league, and the Lions have had a top 10 hardest schedule in the league. So you're also facing way different, more difficult opponents on each side of the ball. And so to me, when you're looking at what Jared Goff has done, and we've talked about how beat up their defense was all season too, and kind of them being able to still push through that. But I do think that a lot of people are like, okay, well, Jared Goff also has Ben Johnson, who everyone's looking at as their next head coach, or hoping is their next head coach, and the run game and this offensive line that's this good. So he definitely is surrounded by everything that can make him good. But to me, I think you just go through his years in the league, and we had this argument a couple months ago where I was like, people act like Jared Goff was bad in his former stop. He wasn't. Like, he was still a good quarterback. He just got even better once he was in Detroit.
Yeah, the system certainly for both of these quarterbacks, you could argue, is what's helping them to this point in the season. I do think the Lions have better weapons than Jaden Daniels has with the Commanders. I mean, we saw this most recent game for the Commanders beating the Bucs. Zach Ertz was a go-to guy.
Which he's the top tight end in the league this year, actually.
Right, which is surprising because he hasn't been the last few years. And so a quarterback can elevate weapons, or the weapons elevating the quarterback. That's a whole different conversation. And as far as just this game alone, I think most people would say Jared Goff is the better quarterback. But in 3 years, this conversation may be entirely different, not just because of the ages, but because if Jaden Daniels can repeat this success, we do have another Lamar Jackson on our hands.
Yeah, or if he does what Mac or CJ has done, we're having the complete opposite different conversation.
We appreciate you interacting with the program via either the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures at 904-641-1010 or the MyBookie Digital Studio, where Duval TV is already sounding off about this very topic, to which he says, Detroit's quarterback has been to a Super Bowl. It's hard to crown either one of them as better because they are at different points in their career. But again, as Taylor also brought up, we forget that Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl with a team that at the time rivaled Kurt Warner and the Rams of the early 2000s as the greatest show on turf.
I never forget, because the story that always comes in my mind is that Sean McVay ended up meeting Matthew Stafford in Mexico on vacation to try and court him and then eventually get that trade with the Lions. They're both in obviously great positions for themselves because Stafford ended up winning a Super Bowl and Goff may win one this year. I think if you were going to say in the regular season, just one game, would you take Jaden? Would you take Jared? That's where I think it's a different conversation than in a playoff game of this magnitude.
Right. I would take Jaden Daniels. I don't know. I mean,
I would take Jared.
I would take Jaden. I mean, and maybe that's...
I think the experience automatically wins for me because I do think we talked about yesterday too. Jaden's gotten very lucky this season.
So you would take Jared Goff?
Yeah.
Oh, I would take Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And
No,
I would take Jaden Daniels. But that experience is exactly why, if you're Ben Johnson, you can call probably a little bit different of a game than Cliff Kingsbury can call because you trust Jared immensely. And while Jaden Daniels has been literally fantastic this season, no one could have predicted how successful he would be. And the fact that, again, they have already won a playoff game, he's a rookie quarterback. You still, I feel like, are going to call a little bit different of a game plan because he hasn't seen the things that Jared Goff has seen. And certainly this Lions defense is starting to get a little bit healthier, and that's going to present a massive challenge. Let's get it to the next game. The Rams at the Eagles, Sunday, 3 p.m. Who has the better quarterback?
Well, before we get to Jalen Hurts versus Matthew Stafford, I think it's important to look back at last night, Lauren, because I think it lends itself to that conversation we just had. Yes, Sam Darnold is not Jaden Daniels, but he was what this season? Largely asked to run Kevin O'Connell's system. It wasn't like he was the best player on the field. Any given time he stepped onto a football field, that was always going to be Justin Jefferson. And at the same time, you had Matthew Stafford opposite him, where the experience that we just talked about with Jared Goff, the winning pedigree, and ultimately, yes, natural God-given ability too, won out last night. And it's the same reason why Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, yes, Jalen Hurts has the younger, lesser tread on the tires approach, even though I think he's got a lot of tread on the tires just because of how the beating he's taken, the fact that he did just get out of concussion protocol a week ago. And yes, I understand he is one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And yes, he also is a mobile quarterback. But in that debate, I will take Matthew Stafford. And that's beyond the Super Bowl.
By the way, would you
resume.
have taken Sam Darnold over Matthew Stafford? No, you would have taken Stafford if we had this conversation.
Right.
Yesterday.
I mean, I picked the Vikings as a 1-point favorite. So, and that was based on the play of their defense and the idea of, I don't think Kevin O'Connell could have 2 back-to-back blunders as an offensive play caller. Unfortunately, I was wrong. But even in that scenario, in terms of sheer quarterback play, I would take Matthew Stafford.
It's interesting because yesterday I would have taken Sam Darnold because of the season that he's had, and I think Stafford is on the older side. However, if Stafford was sacked 9 times last night, then their team would have lost. The difference, obviously, to me was the fact that Darnold, I mean, whether it was him holding the ball a little too long, not stepping up in the pocket and getting rid of the ball faster, or whether it was the fact that his offensive line couldn't protect him. Either way, you cannot win a football game usually and get sacked 9 times.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were on Darnold. And that's what, I think because I watched, obviously, the NFC North so closely all year, that's why I picked the Rams. I was like, I don't think this is going to be a close game, honestly. And a lot of that is because, and I said the same exact thing with Jordan Love and the Packers, both of those quarterbacks struggle mightily when they're under pressure. And that's because when you give any quarterback 4 seconds to throw, they're going to be able to get things done. And they both had offensive lines that through the majority of the season were able to help their quarterbacks, but they also were facing some of the better defensive fronts at that point that were creating pressures and doing a lot of things. Jared Verse and Fisk have had phenomenal seasons, but Jared Verse is just all over the place. And so I did think that was going to catch up, and it did, obviously. And so that's the thing. When you start looking at some of these quarterbacks, and that's how it's hard to truly just evaluate, and that's why it is hard to evaluate after one season because there are so many factors that go into this. Is it they don't have enough film on them yet? Is it that people haven't figured out their full-on strengths, weaknesses? Is it that this offensive line is giving them so much time? Jaden Daniels being one of those. He also has light years to be able to make decisions. That's not going to be the case forever. Yeah, their teams are going to start figuring out, get pressure on these certain quarterbacks, and they make a lot of mistakes. And so I think that's part of it when it comes to that side of things. But when we're talking about this matchup, this one, I can make an argument for either because I think you can make the argument that Matthew Stafford is a veteran. It's been in the league for a long time. Obviously, he has these connections with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Kyron Williams has had a great season too, so that running game helps him a lot. And Matthew Stafford is just such a good decision maker. He's always been that. Even in Detroit, he was that type of guy. But there is something to being said that Jalen Hurts hasn't made a lot of mistakes this season either, and he's really accurate when he gets the ball out, and then you use your legs, and that obviously adds a whole other element. So this one to me is the hardest to decide between, because I wouldn't say either of these to me are like top 3 quarterbacks, but I also think they're both ones that have their own distinct things that make them good.
Yeah, I think I would pick Stafford if you were going to give me the 2. And it's not just because Hurts is coming off the concussion and has had other injuries throughout his career, too. It's because of the experience. Yeah. And I don't see that Jalen Hurts is ever going to be as accurate as Stafford. The point I want to make before we finish on the other side with the final game, the Ravens and the Bills, and what a phenomenal game that's going to be.
By the way, I have a stat on that front we can leave you guys thinking about before we get to this. The Ravens, 1-point favorites. That is... so the Ravens are 1-point favorites. Buffalo has never been an underdog in its previous 18 home playoff games. Continue.
Interesting, because I want to say the Bills started off as favorites and then it shifted to the Ravens. But either way, the point is, have you noticed that anytime we go to talk about these quarterbacks, what are we talking about? Not just their arm strength and accuracy. It's everything that surrounds them, and it's the play callers.
And I think
what brings home the point about Trevor Lawrence. You can't just solely talk about Trevor and his talent. You have to talk about everything else.
Right. And I also think, like I said, that's why you don't just view a quarterback anymore as a game manager. I do want to hit this one off the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures from the 912. You're asking the wrong question. How many games does Washington win with Jared Goff? That's the perspective of it is solely based on the athlete who is under center, as opposed to, I think, the conversation we are having, which is keeping in mind the offensive structure around said passer.
Yeah, and I've had that conversation a lot this year of what would Jaden have done in Chicago, getting sacked 70 times. I don't think he'd look anything like he has in Washington. And so I do think that not only the coaching helps these players, when you're on your third offensive coordinator, that's not an ideal situation for a rookie season. How much different would that have looked for him? What would Caleb had looked like in Washington? Like, there's so many things that you could say. If you swap these two players, if they had this coach, if they had this offensive line, yes, we're probably seeing different products. If we just jumbled all of the quarterbacks and put them on different teams, they'd all probably look different, honestly.
The only one,
maybe other than Patrick Mahomes.
Right, that's the point. He's the only one. So don't get upset. Maybe
Lamar, maybe Josh Allen.
I was going to say maybe Lamar, but Josh Allen I wouldn't, because are we starting from the start of his career?
Yeah.
Because I think if he had 3 offensive play callers in his first 2 years in the league, I think you'd be looking at a completely different Josh Allen, if not for...
Because it did take him a little bit to start developing into this Josh Allen.
Exactly.
He came from a smaller school.
Yeah.
No, I would say it's Mahomes and perhaps Lamar just because of the skill set, but I'm not sure Lamar becomes the passer that he is. And now, granted, he was drafted at 20 years old. He was a 21-year-old rookie, and so certainly his body's still developing, let alone his game, but I'm not sure that his ability as a passer is at the point that it is now, if not for the system that he's been in under, dare I say, both Greg Roman and Todd Monken.
Who has the better quarterback? We will finish our discussion with Ravens at the Bills. That one comes up Sunday night. You are listening to Helmets and Heels. It's an epic cool heating and air Tuesday. Find them online at epichvacservice.com or call 904-859-EPIC. And, of course, mention 1010XL for exclusive discounts. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL on 82.5 FM.
Life is a lot like football.
Life's this game of inches. So is football. The inches we need are everywhere around us. On this team, we fight for that inch.
1010XL.
Cannonball!
Honey, someone's in our pool.
Oh, refreshing.
John, what are you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. Seeing as how me and the guys at Clearwater Irrigation reinstalled your sprinklers after the pool contractor ripped it out, I thought you wouldn't mind if I took a quick dip.
But in a Jaguar print Speedo?
Yeah, Dave. My bad. Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey. Here in North Florida, you know that when temperatures go up and your AC goes out, you need help now. Like right now. Like lickety-split. So why not call Lickety Split and get same-day emergency service for your AC? Now, I bet you've seen their trucks all over town because they've got dozens of certified technicians ready to repair not only your AC, but your home's plumbing and electrical, too. So when you want it done right, and you need it done right now, call Lickety Split AC Plumbing and Electric.
Mia here for MyBookie. It's win or go home. The NFL playoffs are the ticket to the biggest game of the year, and all roads lead to New Orleans. The NCAA playoffs set the stage, but now is your chance to get in on every high-stakes moment along the way to New Orleans. Your road to NOLA starts now with MyBookie. MyBookie is the ultimate destination for bettors who want more. Whether you're backing the underdogs or riding with the favorites, every drive, every touchdown, every moment is an opportunity to win big. Kick off your 2025 right with risk-free Thursdays. Place a bet. If it doesn't hit, MyBookie refunds you your money. Dive into the Bet Boost tab to supercharge your picks and build that bankroll before the big game. And when the games are over, the action does not stop because MyBookie's online casino keeps the excitement going. Blackjack, slots, roulette, it's all there. Whether you're celebrating a big win or gearing up for the next round, now is the time. Use promo code 1010XL on your first deposit. MyBookie will hook you up with an instant bonus because you deserve to start the new year off strong.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at over $2,600 per ounce. Pay bills. Buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Value or flavor? Price or taste? Why choose when you can get both with everyday deals at Sonny's? Right now, you can get the pork big deal for $10, the pork and rib combo for $12, and all you can eat ribs for just $19.99. Yep, you heard right. All your favorites are now available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmaster since '68.
Making a difference in our community for 2025, Paul Martinez here, President and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northeast Florida. The Boys and Girls Clubs offers a safe environment to youth every day with homework assistance, a hot meal, career readiness, and character and leadership programs. 57% of club alumni say the Boys and Girls Club saved their lives. Help us grow our outreach as we serve the kids in our community throughout our 59 clubs. Go to bgcnf.org to donate and learn more.
PRP treatment is kind of the thing these days, and in many cases, it eliminates the need for surgery. This is Sheridan Tootin, and my experience with PRP from Southeast Orthopedic Specialist has been nothing short of great. I'm really feeling much better now. Ask your Southeast Orthopedic Specialist doctor about PRP treatment.
This is Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, where athletes are treated like pros.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Hey, this is Bert Cannon with the First Coast YMCA. Youth sports at the Y can help nurture your future athlete's potential and experience the joy of being a kid. At the Y, we're providing a safe, clean, and fun environment with basketball, soccer, volleyball, gymnastics, elite skills training, and more. Best of all, participation in Legacy Youth Sports League is free with your family membership. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports at the Y.
Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialists congratulating our Scholar Athlete of the Week,
Anastasia Rogers, senior basketball player at Paxton High. Anastasia is also a member of the track and field team and was listed in the African American Recognition Program. Congratulations, Anastasia.
Attention skilled electricians. Are you undervalued at your current company? Time to step up to the bigger projects and better opportunities. Join the team at Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering not just a job, but an experience, top-notch pay, unbeatable benefits, and the best working environments in the business. Please join the team that values your skills and rewards your hard work. Elevate your career to new heights. Apply today at millercareers.com, an equal opportunity employer.
This is Greg Huntington, a.k.a. The Mangler. I'm on the winning team at Waste Management. WM is the largest sustainability company in North America. If your business needs sustainable environmental services for waste removal and recycling collection, then you can count on the industry leader of WM to deliver results. Your services will be completed in a timely, safe, and eco-friendly manner. Go to WM.com/Duval. That's WM.com/Duval and get signed up today. If anyone can talk trash, it's the Mangler.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday, playing the game Who Has the Better Quarterback. We did not play Texans-Chiefs because we all picked Patrick Mahomes. Commanders-Lions, we were split. Rams-Eagles, also, I feel like a little split. But when it comes to Ravens-Bills, this one I feel like there's no wrong answer. That game kicks off Sunday night at 6:30, the game everyone is waiting for. You can convince me it's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
You can also convince me it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, I personally, if we're saying like who we would want, I personally am taking Josh Allen. Josh Allen is, I talk a ton about, like, obviously Patrick Mahomes is that top tier, but Josh Allen and Joe Burrow to me are those next guys that I would take in a heartbeat. I just think that, number one, you have all of this experience. We just talked about his record in the postseason and what Josh Allen, he's even gotten better this year. So that's also a benefit. I think whether that's Joe Brady or whether that's them just being like, hey, let's not run so much. Let's control this a little bit more. Oh, and by the way, run the ball with an actual running back. That's helped their offense a lot too. And look, I love Lamar. Lamar's fantastic. And some of the things, I think Lamar is one of those guys that obviously we saw him have 2 MVPs already and potentially on that verge between him and Josh to have a third.
Yeah, he was the first team All-Pro quarterback.
Yeah, and like the question when he was coming into the league was his arm. He's proven that he can throw the ball, so that's not even a factor anymore. But I also think we've heard the stat too. Once Lamar gets into the postseason, his quarterback rating drops from like 100 and something to 50. Like so to me, I need to see that. I need to see Lamar in these big postseason moments just absolutely go crazy, and then maybe I would trust that a little bit more. I just have more confidence that Josh Allen is able to do it in big games than Lamar at this point.
That's how I feel despite both players having been to Super Bowls. That's why I said Matthew Stafford over Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, yes, there are those of you who a decade ago would have said Matthew Stafford can't elevate the Lions. He can't win the big one. Now we look back on that time and we say, my goodness, he was dragging that Lions
He's pulling
team
the entire team
to the postseason. And now that he actually, or at the very least back in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl, and even now with a younger roster around him, he is able to get the most out of those players and still have that clutch gene, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would say that is where, to your point, Taylor, I do tip my cap to Josh Allen. At the same time, again, the conversation becomes the sheer athleticism of Lamar Jackson, and could it be plug and played elsewhere, and would it still have the same success?
I think Lamar Jackson's mobility, as we all know, it makes him so dangerous. But Josh Allen has that too.
Same, yeah.
And they both at times have struggled with interceptions and making some poor choices. Like we talked about last week with the NFL MVP debate, Lamar Jackson has Derrick Henry, and he has some other weapons offensively too with the Zay Flowers, with Mark Andrews, and Josh Allen is doing all of this without a 1,000-yard rusher or a 1,000-yard receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were to poll NFL head coaches and say you get either one of these guys for the playoff game on Sunday night, which one are you taking? I want to say that 75% of those coaches would take Lamar because of both of the facts that he has a lot of experience, certainly in the postseason, even though it hasn't been great, but he's learned from a lot of that. And Josh Allen has at times had to do it all himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would take him because they feel like he's the more dangerous guy. But it's so close. I feel like it's almost like maybe not. Then I can convince myself and say the opposite. No, because Lamar, we saw him last year in the postseason.
Yeah.
The Ravens barely did anything. And look at what Josh Allen has been able to do as far as his postseasons and appearances. While sometimes they've lost to the Chiefs, they've still been very explosive.
Yeah, and I think that it would be an interesting thing to ask the coaching side, like who would they rather call plays for in those moments. The thing that scares me a little bit about Lamar, and we've seen this in the postseasons, and why his numbers are so drastically different in the regular season and the postseason. But it's if you are able to stop his run and force him to throw, mistakes are made. That's when his completion percentage drops drastically. That's when he turns the ball over. Josh Allen's not. If you force Josh Allen to throw the ball, he'll throw the ball, and there's no problem with him throwing the ball. And so that is why I lean towards Josh. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of coaches were like, well, I could have a guy like Lamar who
It puts defenses in a bind.
Yes.
And conflict.
So and like you said at the top of this, Lauren, like, you can make arguments for either side of who want to. I just will lean towards Josh Allen until Lamar shows me that in these postseason big moments he can.
And I hate that.
I know, me too.
And that's what this game, the final game of this divisional round of the playoffs, is about to become.
Yeah.
It's about to be a referendum on both players' clutch ability. It's going to be a referendum on the MVP vote. And
even though the voting's already done.
Right.
The voting happened, so people know, the voting happened before the first round of the playoffs.
I'm here for it. It's
so
great
Kevin O'Connell
theater.
may still win Coach of the Year, even though his team's already out.
I've got an NBA Coach of the Year I want to talk about. We'll get to that in the 1 o'clock hour. But point being, I'm here for the theater and the content of it all, but gosh almighty. Like, meanwhile, you got Patrick Mahomes just sitting at the top of what Nick Wright calls Mahomes Mountain.
Yeah.
And it's the scuttlebutt underneath him that is just creating some of the best sports talk radio in the country right now. Hopefully here on this program, too. But
Josh Allen, by the way, in the postseason, almost 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions in 11 games.
Yeah, last year he had 4 touchdowns and no picks in those games. He was completing like 70% of his passes, and that's what Josh Allen does in those moments. They ended up losing to Kansas City, even though he completed almost 70%. And he's obviously, we know there's been some bad luck when it comes to that matchup for him. He's had to face Kansas City, which Baltimore has had to do it too. And that's that part, the downfall of being in the AFC, honestly, because you can have a season where you have MVP season, and then you get to Kansas City and you have to face Patrick Mahomes.
just when we thought Tom Brady was gone and this inevitable figure in the AFC, we were over that. Nope. Still exists, even if Patrick Mahomes is on the worst 15-2 team of all time. Yada, 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 yada.
Yeah, anyone who thinks this team is bad, by the way,
They're not bad.
I feel like that's a crazy sentiment.
They've just gotten, the ball has bounced their way more than once.
Yeah.
I think that does speak to their preparation. We had a great topic last week of conversation, Lauren, regarding identity. And I said that the culture and the identity of the Chiefs is obsessive attention to detail. That was verified by more than one person around the league when I told them over the last week that, yes, that is their identity. And so you can certainly point to, it's not the ball bouncing their way. It's not the Bengals missing a field goal as the buzzer, or what it was a pass interference against the Bengals. It was the blocked extra point or blocked field goal against the Broncos.
Yeah.
It's not just them getting lucky and the ball bouncing their way. It's the preparation that prepared them for those moments. Sure.
Yeah. I think they're like a little, people have said that, like that it's kind of surrounded them this year, that they are a bad 15-2 team. But in reality, I think they're just not as like flashy and fun as they've been previous seasons. I also think we have a little bit of this like tiredness of them. So it's like, okay, like, I mean.
What were the Patriots in the latter half of Tom Brady's tenure in New England?
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Boring. But that's what.
But they kept winning.
Yeah, the Chiefs also, to me, they have something that like the Hurricanes had at one point in time, the Miami Hurricanes, that FSU Seminoles had at one point in time, Notre Dame's had it in the past, Ohio State's had it in the past. Speaking of this matchup coming up next week, you know that when you go out to play them, they are more confident than you. No matter how prepared you are, like that's the team to beat. They know it. They've been wearing that target on their back for quite some time. Everyone gets their best, and yet somehow, some way, they come out of it, and they are still winning. And the reason they lost their second game of the season, as we all know, is they didn't play into their starters. That's why they lost to the Broncos. Otherwise, they would have rolled the
That's
Broncos.
why
They would have beaten
third
the Broncos.
string.
I got a kick out of last night. They had all the quarterbacks stats and they had their records, and it said Patrick Mahomes is 15-1, and I was like, wait a second, Carson Wentz. I forgot. You guys want to think some happier thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay, let's think some happier thoughts. RJ, let's hit a that for this, just because I know this is going to just bring out such joy in the Heeligans and in all of Duval.
That just happened. Brought to you by Florida Home AC, the official air conditioning partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's no surprise that Brian Thomas Jr. is among the 6 nominees for the NFL's Rookie of the Year. What we do need you to do, Heeligans, the Jaguars just tweeted out the link. We will be tweeting it out here momentarily from the 1010XL channels across our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Be sure to go vote BTJ, who is up against, the presumptive NFL Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Malik Neighbors, Bo Nix, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, all on the offensive side of the ball for the Pepsi Zero Sugar Rookie of the Year through the NFL. We know, obviously, the big award will be Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year at the NFL Honors, but the NFL does this overall Rookie of the Year award, too. So why not get in on the action? Give BTJ your vote. We need some positive vibes here in Duval.
I just voted for him, but like you said, I have a feeling Jaden Daniels will win. Today is an Epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday. Find them online at epichvacservice.com or call 904-859-EPIC. There are discounts for military, police, and first responders. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Value or flavor? Price or taste? Why choose when you can get both with everyday deals at Sonny's? Right now, you can get the pork big deal for $10, the pork and rib combo for $12, and all you can eat ribs for just $19.99. Yep, you heard right. All your favorites are now available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue, local pitmasters since '68.
Mia here. New Year's resolutions are upon us. But let's be honest. By February, that gym membership will just be a $50 per month guilt trip. Why not take that cash and finally fix that leaky faucet, unclog that drain, or tune up that AC? Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning has your back. Visit duckduckrooter.com or call today, 904-862-6769. Start the year off fresh. No leaks, no clogs, no excuses. Duck Duck Rooter, 904-862-6769.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees, about $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 15th.
Mia here for Dream Finders Homes. For a limited time to ring in the new year, Dream Finders Homes is offering an amazing 4.99% fixed interest rate. Now is your chance to lock down the rate and get in the game. You heard me right, a 4.99 fixed interest rate on select move-in ready homes. Visit dreamfindershomes.com for sales event information and get in the game. Interest rate available on select move-in ready homes. Restrictions and limitations apply. Go to dreamfindershomes.com for more details.
Denny Thompson here. If you haven't heard, Dan and Jeff are going to be live from the brand new showroom at Tyson Sound & Security this Friday. You have to check out Tyson's showroom home theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. Did I mention Friday morning you can enter to win a $2,500 prize giveaway? Bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound & Security, now at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming Island.
Hey gang, Prosser here, and I've been telling you for years about Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Lifetime Enclosures right now running an awesome special for January. Get a complete enclosure done, get free flooring. Now that can save you some money. If you just need flooring, Lifetime Flooring also running a buy one room, get the second room free. Once again, only for January. Now offering flooring coating as well. So give them a call. I know I did. Visit their showrooms just off Phillips Highway. Proud partners of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm living proof that with Rebound Rehab, you can bounce back and get back in the game. Joe C. for Rebound Rehabilitation, and they helped me recover from an ankle injury that had me down and out. Their team of physical therapists ensure you'll get the best treatment you need to recover and regain mobility. From back, shoulder, and neck pain to a nagging knee or arthritis, Rebound Rehab can help form a game plan through therapy and exercise, complete with an app so you can continue to recover at home. Check out reboundrehab.com. 8 convenient locations.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On January 14, 1951, the first NFL Pro Bowl takes place at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Cleveland Browns quarterback Otto Graham is awarded MVP.
Matt Hayes here for Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code JAX to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code JAX to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Homeowners, listen up. It's time to start fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
Sweetie, come here. Don't worry. I see a lot of patients with the exact same thing.
Ever since the ice skating rink went in next door?
Or is it more than
Dr. Clark's business is heating up.
So many patients need my help. How will I find time to see all of them?
They need to hire a scheduler, stat.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale Lighting, Fans, and Home Decor on 1010XL.
He was sitting out back in a rocker. He said, "What you been up to lately?" I told him chasing the dollar, and in between sips of coffee, he poured this wisdom out.
Well, if you are a Jordan Davis fan, ironic, by the way, that Jordan Davis was announced as the 2025 Players Championship Military Appreciation Concert. There we go. Because we just talked about Jordan Davis last week, we couldn't come up with his name as far as the Eagles defensive tackle.
I was about to say, it's not the Eagles.
I said,
Yes.
if you had said country singer, I would have gotten it, and miraculously, magically.
It is not the 6'6", 336-pound Jordan Davis. It's the country singer Jordan Davis who will be playing on the Island Green on the Tuesday of Players Championship Week.
Sings this song by Dirt, also sings Next Thing You Know, a bunch of other good songs. Years ago, there was a hurricane barreling down on Northeast Florida, so I was very bummed that there was a concert scheduled for Jordan Davis to play at Surfer out in Jax Beach, and the concert got canceled because of the hurricane. But I would have gotten to see him before he got, really famous. And so certainly looking forward to that. The Players Championship does such a great job with military appreciation, and certainly they always bring great acts.
Yeah.
And so looking forward to this one. And we were just saying how we'll be done with the show at 2 p.m., Taylor, so we get to go and actually see the concert up close and personal instead of being on air during it.
Yeah, because that's what I was like, I'm excited. I finally get to actually watch the concert, because normally we are on air, so we'll hear a little bit. I'll usually catch the beginning, and then we have to run over and jump on air. Not that I'm complaining that our whole work week that week is out at TPC Sawgrass, but it will be nice to actually be able to enjoy it, and I do like Jordan Davis a lot. It was funny because we were talking about Jordan Davis, and as I was watching the game the other night, I'm like, it's been a joke of how they have so many Bulldogs. But literally every play, it was like, oh, he's a Bulldog. Oh, there's another Bulldog. There's another Bulldog. I'm like, man, they really have almost half their defenses from Georgia.
Yeah, they're really
It's like
good.
us for
Which
LSU
also,
that we're working on.
The more and more I've thought about it, and a lot of this has to deal with, which I'm sure many of you read, Edgar Thompson's piece in the Orlando Sentinel, which I was informed of the same, of the candidates to be the general manager of the Florida Gators football team. Story for another time. But the point is, Lauren, all 4 of the candidates that Edgar noted in his piece and that I know to be candidates for that position have ties to the Eagles. Eagles general manager Howie Roseman is a Gator grad. Why are we not talking about this? It might be one of the most underreported storylines in all of sports, that a Gator is out here just cherry-picking every Georgia Bulldog that's on the roster.
Because he's been very close to that.
Well, he's seen the talent up close and personal if he comes to Jacksonville for Florida, Georgia, but also they've been winning national championships.
Yeah, I know. The irony's not lost on me.
LSU last national championship was 2019. That team was known more for its offense than its defense. So just saying, as far as the Jaguars taking the
wrong one, Trent.
Yeah, try and take guys from the national championship team.
I did want to share this number real quick because we were talking about last night with Sam Darnold and kind of what went wrong with that offense. But I just read a stat saying that PFF charged Cam Robinson with 12 pressures last night. Sam Darnold also held the ball for 3.1 seconds, which is a very long time. You have 3 seconds to throw the ball. You should be able to get the ball out. On average, that was the 3.1 seconds. It says, but Robinson also allowed 9 pressures against Detroit too. So that kind of caught up towards the end because I was talking to a lot of Vikings people at first, and I was like, when they lost Christian Darrisaw, they were like, this is going to be terrible. It seemed like the first few games that Cam Robinson was playing really well, and they were like, honestly, there's not that much different. That caught up. That caught up not having your starting left tackle.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot of times is early on, guys seem to assimilate very well, and then the defensive fronts get an idea of what they're doing, and so they can pick up on that on tape. By the way, theplayers.com is where you get your tickets. That military appreciation concert is always Tuesday. Starts around 5 p.m., the military appreciation part, and then the concert follows. And then, of course, the players all week long. Do we think that we'll have Scotty Scheffler win again? I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
The bigger question is, and the great one did just tweet, sending out his thoughts and prayers to his hometown of L.A. I mean, I just keep hearing the rumblings and the question of, will Tiger play? Will Tiger play? And that comes every year.
He's playing tonight in the TGL, his debut in the TGL.
And that's why I think people are wondering.
Yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Tiger again.
It's been kind of unclimactic.
Anticlimactic. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him again in a major, if we don't see him again in the Players, if that time has come. But either way, time now for our Heels highlights.
Now, Heels highlights. Unbelievable! On 1010XL.
Christian Gray is a game changer.
Ball's at their own 28. Quick snap for Aller, looking left. Can't get it out. Now pressure coming. Aller throws. Intercepted! Christian Gray picks it off at the 42-yard line. Notre Dame will get the ball back with 33 seconds left in the game. What a big-time pick!
Pick City has arrived in Miami. The pressure coming from Jalen Sneed, phenomenal, forcing Aller to throw this ball early, and Christian Gray again giving Notre Dame the opportunity to win.
Jim Harbaugh gets taken by the Dirty Bubble on the Nickelodeon broadcast.
Is that Dirty Bubble?
Dirty Bubble! Oh, no!
He's up to no good. Whoa, look out, Coach Harbaugh! Watch out, Harbaugh!
He's enveloping Harbaugh!
Oh, no, Harbaugh's going to have to take a shower when he goes in at halftime. Stinks in there, I bet. Uh-oh. Oh, he got to be careful!
Jim, come back!
Dirty Bubble. Look. Harbaugh down. Look for a soft spot to land. Gentle with the head coach. Oh, no.
Saquon Barkley stays classy, but loses Bettor's money.
Looking to run this one out with 1:10 to go. Here's Barkley. Uh-oh! He's going to take a slide. So quick. That's a classy move because that was a home run ball. But Saquon will take a slide to officially end it.
I don't know if I'd have been as classy, just so you know.
Let's start with the middle highlight. I'm going to guess, Mia, that would be yours.
Of course it was, because I love the slime fest that is the Nickelodeon alternative cast during the NFL playoffs.
Only?
No, of course not. I only watch the playoffs. I watch the viral moments. Back in the day when our good friend Noah Eagle debuted the Nickelodeon cast like 4 years ago before he burst onto the national scene, and it was more so just a fun, let's throw Ian Eagle's kid out there to do the Nickelodeon broadcast. He's young and fun. Back then, I used to watch it to support Noah. Now I can listen to Noah pretty much every day on national broadcasts and the standard broadcast as opposed to the alternative. So I haven't nearly watched it as much as I did once upon a time. But also the fact that this was Jim Harbaugh that was taken away in the Dirty Bubble in the SpongeBob series, and just the sheer sound of SpongeBob yelling, "Jim, no! Jim, no!" I feel like that was a lot of us throughout the duration of Saturday's loss to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, he got to call the first ever MVP, the Nickelodeon MVP, which was Mitchell Trubisky.
Never forget.
Never forget.
That's Noah's claim to fame. Not about being like the youngest, like 30 under 30 NBC brought. No, it's the fact that he got to literally call Mitchell Trubisky as the MVP. Shout out Nate Burleson too, who's one of the most underrated, still somehow underrated broadcasters in the game.
And Taylor, no surprise, your highlight was from Notre Dame beating Penn State.
Yes, Christian Gray. I mean, massive play. It was that game. The end of it, I was so stressed because a minute 47 left. Notre Dame has the ball. I'm like, technically, just run the clock out, get a field goal. They couldn't get it done, and then I was like, oh crap, here we go. Penn State has the ball now. They just have to get into field goal range, and they win. And throws a pick on their own 28. Massive play by Christian Gray, which honestly he's been making the whole playoff. So it was one of those moments that obviously sealed the deal. But he's a sophomore, and it's really fun to see a lot of these young kids who have stepped up because guys like Benjamin Morrison, who was supposed to be the starting corner, gets hurt, and you have these freshmen and sophomores playing there. You've seen the offensive line get beat up from day one. There's 4 backups on the offensive line right now. There's 3 backups on the defensive line right now, and they're still able to make these big plays. So it was just definitely a moment that I will personally remember forever, like so vividly, because in my head I was like, this is what happens to my teams. Like these moments of you're right there and you can't close it out, and they were able to. And that's also a testament to Marcus Freeman because he fires those guys up.
Penn State bringing back Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, and Katron Allen. That's a very impressive haul for Penn State, for James Franklin to be able to have return when they all could have gone in the draft, or at least Singleton and Aller could have. I'm impressed with that. I don't know that they're necessarily going to win the national championship by any means. So much has left to be determined, but I do feel like that's impressive for James Franklin to get those guys back. And I picked the Saquon Barkley slide mainly because I heard so many different people complain because they had money on Barkley getting a touchdown or to get a certain amount of yards, and he obviously could have had it easily, but he decided to slide. I think that was the right moment, or the right thing to do in that moment based off of the time left and the fact that they had no timeouts. And so the Eagles continue to dominate in the postseason, or I should say, continue to dominate the Packers in the postseason. I'll just say it for Taylor like that. But yeah, and Tom Brady saying he doesn't know if he would be that classy. I cracked up at that.
Yeah, I think he did it earlier in the season too. There was some other record that he was going to break, and he was sitting, and the coach was like, "Do you want to go?" And he was like, "Nah, it's good. Let these boys have their moment." That is the type of player I want on my football teams. And it's like we talk about all these guys who are phenomenal players, and George Pickens, for example. I've done tangents on him this year too. He has a lot of issues when it comes to saying things he shouldn't say. He has an attitude. He's trying to fight fans. He's fighting players on the field. I don't want somebody like that, and I don't care how good he is. That's personally just not somebody that I want representing the football teams that I cheer for. Saquon Barkley is the epitome of a guy that you want on your football team, obviously on and off the field.
Yeah, and it's cool, too, because the two guys that always get mentioned together this season in Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is the same exact way. I also find it funny, going back to our quarterback conversation earlier, the 2 quarterbacks that we talked about so much all season long are already out of the postseason. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield.
Yep. And honestly, certainly in the case of Sam Darnold last night, but, and I mean, let alone the fact that he held the ball for 3.1 seconds. The miscues, yes, you can blame the offensive line all you want, but you can certainly shoulder a lot of last night's loss onto Sam Darnold. And I think in hindsight, when you watch the Tampa-Washington game back, or at least like watching the highlights back, the time of possession is still mind-boggling to me. And that certainly falls at the feet of a Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that was down comparatively to the last few years, yes, but that just quite frankly couldn't get off the field, dumb penalties on third down. In the same vein, though, Lauren, you could say that Baker Mayfield fumble changed the trajectory of that entire game. And so, yes, the 2 quarterbacks we've been talking about all year, the Renaissance projects, and their miscues may or may not have cost their team a chance at the divisional round.
Absolutely. The Jaguars tweeted out that they have completed the interview with Robert Saleh. Not necessarily a guy that a lot of Jags fans want for head coach, maybe more defensive coordinator. But you want to talk some Lions football when we return?
Yes. I know that there's lots of folks out there. They want the insight on Ben Johnson. We don't have any updates.
Aaron Glenn, too.
And Aaron Glenn. We don't have any updates on how those interviews went, aside from the Jaguars did conduct virtual interviews with both of those gentlemen over the weekend. Perhaps our next guest can shed a little bit more light on the subject, or at the very least give us some insight into both of those 2 coordinators and how they could be as head coaches. But to the Saleh point, real quick, Lauren, just because I know this is a hot button topic right now, especially because Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, who does cover the New York Jets, says he has on good intel that Robert Saleh is a popular figure in the Jaguars building, and that he believes there's real buzz about Saleh's chances as a head coach. I've heard some of the same, but I do want you guys to separate, as you're all punching the air right now, separate your fandom and emotion and football from this situation. Let's say you have a candidate who you want to bring into your organization, maybe not necessarily in the role they're interviewing for, but you do want to create a role for them. Are you going to tell them that before they even take the interview, or are you going to just simply try to get them into the building and have that conversation first? Take football out of it. Yeah. It happens in the workplace. It happens in the business world all the time. And so this interview took place this morning. Any rumblings from The Athletic or elsewhere that happened prior to this morning, I can't speak for those individuals and what they've been told, but I do just want you to understand and recognize, would you ever go into a job interview and be told, like, I know I'm not getting this job, but I know they may put me in for a second job that, like, they may or may not create? You go in for the job that you're interviewing for, and they interview you for that job, if only on the surface level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I personally, if you're going in for a job interview, you're going for that job. And yeah, maybe there are circumstances where if they're like, hey, this one
You're
is
not qualified for this
there.
one.
Yeah. But we do have this, and it's also very appealing. It depends how you feel about that. I don't know where Robert Saleh is in that. I don't know if he wants to be a defensive coordinator, if he wants to be a head coach somewhere, or if he if he's not in a rush to do anything right now. I have no idea. But I don't think that somebody coming in to interview for a head coaching job is going to be like, oh, yeah, like they said I wasn't good enough for the head coach, but they'll make me a defensive coordinator. Like, I'd feel disrespected, honestly.
Right, exactly. So he's getting a fair shake at it. And I appreciate the fact that the Khan family is going to give him the fair shake, even if, yes, and I can tell you from good intel across the board, a lot of these young offensive-minded candidates are coming in with a plan of, I will bring you Robert Saleh as my defensive coordinator, Shad Khan.
All right, we will get it to Lions football on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on an epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Your home for Florida Gators basketball is 1010XL.
Florida's fantastic season continues at the O'Connell Center against Missouri. It's the number 5 Gators and the Tigers tonight at 9 on 1010 AM.
Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Why Arlington Toyota? I'm glad you asked. How about a huge selection of new vehicles in stock on the ground in one location? And every new Toyota purchase comes with Arlington's lifetime warranty. That's unlimited time and miles. 60-day exchange program. You heard right. You now get 60 days to decide if you love your new Toyota purchase or just come on back within 60 days and exchange it for one that you do. Worried about financing? Arlington is here to help with the Arlington Credit Helper. You even get a complimentary car wash with every service to keep your new Toyota looking like it just came off the lot. So if you've ever wondered, why Arlington? Now you know. Huge selection in stock. One location. Arlington's lifetime warranty, 60-day exchange program, the Arlington Credit Helper. Oh, and did I mention, Arlington has an amazing 4.7-star rating and over 19,000 Google reviews. Don't wait. Shop in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, or online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Everybody, Mike Dempsey with a question here. Was your goal to lose weight this new year? If so, are you already down 18 pounds? That's a serious question because I dropped 18 pounds in my first 3 weeks alone with Awaken 180 weight loss. That's how fast the weight can fall off when you choose the solution for weight loss. Each week, you look at the scale and the number goes down and down. Every morning you wake up, you feel better and better. For me, I love that instant feedback of knowing that Awaken 180 was working for me on a daily basis, experiencing those results, and given how easy Awaken 180 was, there was no way I wouldn't reach my goal, and I did. 25 pounds total thanks to Awaken 180, and I've kept the weight off since. The only weight loss program I know that puts their money where their mouth is. They're so confident in your success, they offer free support for life. A one-time investment in yourself for a lifetime of benefits online at awaken180weightloss.com.
If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904 395-5598.
Tony Baselli gets up early Monday morning to share a big football breakfast with you.
Some French toast and sausage patties.
Hall of Fame Monday, 7:20 with Dan and Jeff on the drill. Brought to you by Heritage Roofing of North Florida on 1010XL.
Mia here for MyBookie. It's win or go home. The NFL playoffs are the ticket to the biggest game of the year, and all roads lead to New Orleans. The NCAA playoffs will set the stage, but this is your chance to get in on every high-stakes moment along the way. Your road to New Orleans starts now with MyBookie. MyBookie is the ultimate destination for bettors who want more, whether you're betting the underdogs or riding with the favorites. Every drive, every touchdown, every moment is an opportunity to win big. Kick off your 2025 right with risk-free Thursdays. Place a bet, and if it doesn't hit, MyBookie has your back. Dive into the Bet Boost tab to supercharge your picks and build that bankroll before the big game. And when the games are over, the action does not stop, folks. MyBookie's online casino keeps the excitement going 24/7. Blackjack, roulette, slots, it's all there. Whether you're celebrating a big win or gearing up for the next round. Haven't joined yet? Now's the time. Use promo code 1010XL on your first deposit, and MyBookie will hook you up with an instant bonus because you deserve to start the year off right.
We don't have too many cold nights on the first coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap into action and provide you with the best solution. Heater and heat pump repair service and new system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
There are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and if you stay in your home long enough, a new roof. Pick it here for our friends at Lockhart Roofing. Nobody better in Jacksonville. How do I know? They are a local certified Master Elite contractor, and that means they have a GAF Master Elite warranty. That's the best in the roofing industry. In this day and age, don't settle for cheaper discount roofers. Lockhart Roofing has been here for decades. They aren't going anywhere. Call my friends at Lockhart Roofing, 994-3851. That's 994-3851. Lockhart Roofing, Jacksonville's best for Jacksonville people.
Come on, admit it. Almost everyone you know seems to be playing pickleball now, right? So whether you just want to learn how to play or you're ready to show off your elite pickleball skills, the Y is the place for you. Visit our brand new McGuire Family Pickleball Center at the Brown Family YMCA in Ponte Vedra Beach. 5 top quality outdoor courts and 3 amazing indoor courts where you can learn about dinks, dill ball, falafel, the kitchen, and more pickleball slang at the Y.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by Kuhn Flowers. Following the Orlando Magic's win over the Philadelphia 76ers, with the Magic closing out a game on a 13-5 run behind their hustle effort, head coach Jamal Mosley spoke on winning by committee and finding different ways to win.
I think guys are just finding ways to contribute. You know, we say by committee, and what that means is whatever it takes to help this team find a way to success, whatever it means to help this team find a way to get a win. I was just so proud of that last possession. We switched everything up. They got a 5-second call. They had no timeouts left. That is the fight and the determination of this group to find a way to win.
The Magic now head out on the road for a 2-game trip starting tomorrow night in Milwaukee as they take on the Bucks. With the Players' Championship just around the corner, your military appreciation concert headliner has been announced, and it'll be Jordan Davis playing on the 17th hole on March 11th at 4:30. It's 57 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time in temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line. Hello. We can wiggle it.
All right, it is time. It's finally time to talk about the man that everybody has been talking about.
Two men, as Lauren Brooks did
but
just
one
note.
man has been talked about a lot around the entire NFL. and that is Ben Johnson. We are going now to be joined by Jeremy Reisman. He covers the Lions for the Pride of Detroit. I've had Jeremy on my podcast a few times talking Lions, Bears, all of that sort of stuff. So, Jeremy, I appreciate you joining us today.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
As I mentioned at the top of this just now, Ben Johnson is a name everybody is talking about. All of the coaching openings are talking about and to Ben Johnson. And so I do want to get to that, and I also want to get to Aaron Glenn, both the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in Detroit, as everybody's kind of eyeing both of those names. But I do want to start with this postseason and the Detroit season in general first, just to kind of get an idea of what is going on there exactly. And 3 NFC North teams enter the playoffs, already down to 1, being the Lions, with the Packers and the Vikings both out. But let's start with the overarching season for the Lions. We've talked a lot about Brad Holmes here on this show and what he's been able to do in the draft. We've talked about the leadership of Dan Campbell, the development of players they've been able to create, the offensive mind and Ben Johnson, and of course, even what Aaron Glenn has done with a lot of injuries this season piling up, including Aiden Hutchinson being the big one. Which part of that to you has been most impressive to watch this last few seasons?
Man, I think if you're talking about this past season, it has to be the fact that the defense has been able to keep their head above water with all the injuries. You know, I'm sure by now everyone has seen the Monday night graphics or Sunday night graphics of 16-plus guys on injured reserve on just to the defensive side of the ball this year, and they've been able to still produce at a really high level. They had, a stretch of 3 or 4 games where they're starting guys who were literally in the door earlier in the week. And the defense naturally dropped to a pretty low level during those games, but they still won. And now they seem to have bounced back a little bit now that they've had some weeks to really rebound. And a lot of credit there goes to Aaron Glenn for, again, getting guys in the door on a Monday and playing them on a Sunday, for having a robust scheme but enough flexibility to change things on the run when he needs to. And more importantly, giving the guys the opportunity and giving the guys his belief that they're able to weather this storm. So, it's been a really phenomenal turnaround on the defensive side of the ball. And, they really struggled in the first 3 years under Aaron Glenn. If you look at some of the, statistics, whether it's points per game or yards for whatever, for them to turn it around in a year in which they faced historic injuries is truly remarkable.
Jeremy, how confident would you be on the offensive side of things if Ben Johnson, or maybe when Ben Johnson leaves, that Jared Goff will be this productive next year?
Yeah, it's a huge question and a really tough one to answer without actually seeing it happen. But I think there are a couple things to believe that the Lions would probably be okay. I think the first and foremost is just having a strong offensive line in general is a good way to maintain offensive strength. Having a quarterback who's now done it for 2.5 years, if not 3 years in Detroit, is another way to make sure that there's going to be at least some sort of stabilization on that side of the football. Then the other thing I would say is, too, don't underestimate the X's and O's of Dan Campbell. When they fired their offensive coordinator in year 1 under Dan Campbell mid-season, it was actually Dan Campbell who took over play calling for the back half of the season, and that's kind of when we started to see some spark on that offensive side of the ball. Now, he obviously eventually handed that to Ben Johnson, but I'm not saying he would retake play calling duties, but he has a pretty strong vision and scheme of where he wants this to go. And the Lions have now had 2 or 3 years to kind of develop an internal plan, because it was clear at some point Ben Johnson was going to go. So it's going to be an adjustment. It's not going to be seamless completely, but given that the Lions have now had a couple of years to adjust and expect this to happen, I have to imagine that with the consistency on the offensive line, with the quarterback that they're confident in, you're not going to see a huge step back on offense.
Are you suggesting that the wizard that is Ben Johnson has just been propped up by Dan Campbell all this time? I'm just kidding, Jeremy. I'm just kidding. This is Jeremy Reisman of Pride of Detroit, the SB Nation out in Motown. You can find him on X, Detroit on Lion, joining us on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. No, Jeremy, in all seriousness, though, Ben Johnson, I think that what we have tried to do our best on this program and throughout our 16 hours of daily programming here on 1010 XL, what we have tried to do is to separate the play caller, leader of men, head coach, just because you can call fancy plays, does that mean that you can command a room? Ultimately, we've heard from so many around the league that you don't know if you can command that room until you have to. Do you have an inkling from his time in Detroit, which he's served in a multitude of roles? He was retained by Dan Campbell from the Matt Patricia administration. Do you have an inkling? Do you have intel that Ben Johnson could be that guy that not only can call elite plays, but he also can assemble an elite staff and can command the respect of an entire organization and hold everyone accountable?
Yeah, it's again one of those huge questions that I think you're right. You don't really know if you can do it until you can do it. But the one thing I will say is it certainly helps being around an organization where he saw what doesn't work under Matt Patricia, and he now sees what does work under Dan Campbell. And I have to imagine, he's worked with Dan Campbell before too. He was with him down in Miami, so he has an understanding of that level of importance of having a good culture, of having a good leader, of relating to your players and not acting necessarily like a dictatorship or something like you've seen with some of the Patriots cast-offs. So I do think he has an idea of how it should run. Whether he can do it himself is definitely a different question altogether. But I will say this, based on how I see him react with his players, with Jared Goff in particular, that relationship was so important to how this offense came to be. He works hand in hand with Jared Goff. He collaborated, which I think is an important, a hugely important verb when it comes to being a good head coach, is collaboration. And so he went in, there was this kind of 3-day summit he had with Jared Goff where he listened to Jared Goff talk about his favorite plays, his favorite concepts from his Rams days, and work together to build that offense. And so that to me is a sign that he's willing to not just say, hey, this is my team, my way, we're going to do it my way. Another thing that he does regularly every week is he has offensive linemen submit their favorite plays every single week and, makes that part of the game plan if he likes it too. And so, again, it's that collaborative effort that I think players certainly love, that empowerment that it gives them. And it shows that, again, he is not kind of this ego at the top that everyone else has to follow. So I think that's a positive sign. He does get prickly at times. He's definitely the loudest guy out there on the field because he has a pretty high standard for excellence. He's a very detail-oriented guy when it comes to game planning and footwork and all those things. So that has the, chance to rub people the wrong way if they don't like getting yelled at necessarily. But it's not an ego thing with him. It's more of a demand of excellence. So I wouldn't bet against him when it comes to being a true leader rather than just a playbook.
Jeremy, when we go back to last year, we know he turned down some interviews and he decided to obviously stay with the Lions. Do you see a world where he decides to stay again even after all of these interviews?
I think some Lions fans are still holding out hope for that, and maybe it is. Like you said, it seems like he certainly has a high standard for what he's looking for. He came out last offseason and said, one of the things I'm looking for is I need a little bit of assurance that this isn't going to be a 2-3 year deal and then I'm done. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of offensive coordinators never get that second chance at a head coaching job. And so he's going to be picky. He's going to have to find the right situation. And I think more importantly, he's going to have to find the right organizational structure that gives him the confidence that he's going to get the time, the patience, all that to really get what he wants in and out of those doors. So it's possible. I can't speak to necessarily all of the opportunities that are out there and the inner workings of all those organizations. But if it's not right, I do think it's possible he comes back. And I think that probability certainly goes up if the Lions don't win the Super Bowl. And I would say the probability probably certainly goes down if the Lions do win a Super Bowl. Because, that was one of the things that he said was a big factor too in coming back last year is the unfinished business of it. It was the flight back from San Francisco after the NFC Championship loss that really kind of pushed him over the edge of, no, I want to see this out in Detroit. And so, if they have a similar letdown this year, then maybe that same epiphany hits him again.
Since you opened the can of worms, Jeremy, I have to ask. Lance Newmark obviously was a guy who spent decades in Detroit, has been linked to Ben Johnson. I'm curious, your thoughts on Ben Johnson potentially going into interviews over the last week or so and saying, I am bringing my own front office candidate, even if you have one in-house. And B, a tie to Lance Newmark. Was that on your bingo card that those two dudes were hanging out together, or at least had a friendship going on?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it makes a lot of sense, right? And it goes back to what I was just saying. It's that organizational structure that's very important to Ben Johnson, to have that kind of stability in his job and knowing that things are going to kind of play out in a way that he's going to be able to at least get an opportunity to play out his entire vision of what it means to team build. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd kind of forgotten that Lance Newmark was out there at the assistant GM job, and it makes sense that he started to garner some interviews himself. I know he's been with the Jets, and so, it's also like maybe it's Lance Newmark and Aaron Glenn too, because they've been together. So, I mean, it's really kind of a fascinating situation where certainly I'm not used to it on my side, seeing all these Lions traces everywhere across the league, and Dan Campbell and really the entire Lions organization creating this new tree of coaches and GM and front office guys that the league is trying to be the Detroit Lions. It's an awkward thing to say considering the 60 plus years of futility that followed this team before this regime, but it's really, really interesting seeing it unfold.
Yeah, it does feel like in our market, we spend a lot more time talking about the Lions as far as who we can pluck from them and how we can build like them than the actual Commanders-Lions game that's upcoming on Saturday night.
Right.
But as far as Trevor Lawrence, how do you think, and I know this is totally speculation on your part, but how do you think that a guy like Ben Johnson feels about Trevor? The one season that Trevor did play against the Lions back in 2022, that game did not go according to plan. And then, of course, Trevor was injured this year when the Jags played the Lions.
Yeah, no, I think you see the physical tools there, and I think that's enough for someone like Ben Johnson to be like, I can work with that. He's had enough production in this league. It might not be consistent every week or even every year, but I think you see enough in him that Ben Johnson would be like, all right, if we get an offensive line in front of this guy, if we give him the proper weapons around him, because again, like that's what it took for Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff didn't work right away in Detroit, but once they developed the offensive line, which already had a couple of tools in place, and once they got a receiving core that fit what they wanted in it, it turned around in an instant. And I think Ben Johnson would look at that and see a similar situation where if we just get the right guys in the right place around him, and it's probably not a huge overhaul. I don't know the Jaguars roster completely front to back, but I know there's some good guys. There's certainly a really good wide receiver there that you can build around, and that would, in my opinion, probably not take that long to really turn around the offense. And I'm sure that's what Jacksonville is currently looking for.
Well, Jeremy, we have to say goodbye before we do. How are you feeling about this weekend?
Oddly confident, to be quite honest. Maybe not 8.5 points like Vegas thinks confidently, but the Commanders are one of those teams that I think they're on the rise. They're maybe playing a little bit of, they're certainly further along than most people, probably even Commanders fans, expected them to be. But if you go roster to roster, I do think the Lions are the more talented team, particularly when it comes to really the trenches on both sides of the ball. And so I think that's, when you're talking about January football, you're talking about getting in the nitty gritty, you're talking about running the football, all those sort of things, even if it is indoors in Detroit. So I think the Lions should walk away relatively comfortably this week, and then we'll see who they face and potentially their back-to-back NFC Championship game.
There you go. All right. Well, Jeremy Reisman, again, covers the Lions for the Pride of Detroit. Jeremy, thank you for hopping on with us, and have fun this weekend.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good stuff from him there.
Yeah.
I loved his comments about that he's not afraid to yell at people. Ben Johnson, that is.
Yeah.
That he's not afraid to yell at people.
He's prickly.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that.
Someone on the text line, 742, shout out to you, saying, I like hearing that he's a bit prickly and detail-oriented because I've heard that Andy Reid is more like that than most people realize.
Yeah. And there you go. We'll continue the conversation about the Jags and get a tangent from one Taylor Dahl on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM on an epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday.
There are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and Jags football.
To the 5, into the end zone, touchdown!
Jaguar football lives here. 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Open enrollment is here, so it's time to secure health coverage for your family. Whether you need Affordable Care Act plans, dental, or Medicare, visit one of the Florida Blue pop-up enrollment tents near you. They make the process easy and stress-free with medical and dental insurance you can count on. Plus, listen to this. Based on eligibility, many people pay absolutely nothing for coverage. Find the perfect Florida Blue plan for your family at the Aaron Group in Orange Park near the intersection of College Drive and 220. Here's a reminder for Florida Blue members. You can access Sanitas Medical Center with 3 locations around town offering primary care, walk-in services, an on-site pharmacy, and mental health support. 3 Sanitas Medical Centers, combined with Florida Blue coverage and expert service you'll get from the Aaron Group in Orange Park, will make you feel like a winner in Northeast Florida insurance coverage.
Lauren Brooks here. At Hodges Mazda, they are proud of their solid reputation in the Jacksonville community. As your hometown Mazda dealer, their high customer service standards and their huge inventory of both new and used cars provide their customers a consistently first-rate car buying experience. Their professional, non-commissioned sales team puts your best interest first without exception. And get this, all new vehicle purchases include the Hodges Mazda Protection Package. Visit them online at hodgesmazda.com or stop in today to learn more and discover the Hodges Mazda difference.
New year, new beginnings, and a new roof. Start 2025 with peace of mind and take advantage of Universal Roof and Contracting's limited time offer. 15% off all roof repairs and replacements. From leaks to full replacements, call 855-ROOF-HELP or visit universalroof.com to schedule your free roof inspection today. This special New Year deal ends January 31st. Universal Roof and Contracting, protecting your home and building your trust. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
Hi, Jags fans. Walker Little here for my friends at Kingfish Pest Control. Playing offensive line in the NFL, I must block and protect on every down. When it comes to keeping my home pest-free, I expect that same level of protection. So I contacted Kingfish after seeing thousands of positive online customer reviews about their service. I can confirm from personal experience, bugs don't stand a chance getting past Kingfish Pest Control. Do what I did. Reach out to Kingfish Pest Control to protect your home, a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Find the best-kept secret in Jax at the Moss Fire Grill. From $5 margaritas to made-from-scratch Southwest cuisine, find yourself relaxing or celebrating at Jacksonville's first-ever rooftop. Visit Moss Fire Grill in Riverside.
See you on the rooftop.
If your ride is making strange noises, don't wait and make it work. Come to Action Transmission on Merrill Road. My expert technicians can diagnose the problem and likely fix it fast. Experience the difference at Action Transmission on Merrill Road.
When the heat's on high or the chill is too much, who you gonna call? Cool Cats Heating and Cooling is locally owned and operated with a perfect touch. You'll keep your home just right, day or night. AC to heating, don't take a beating. Call the coolest cats in town. With a 5-star Google rating, they're your neighbors, ready to help. So get your paw of approval from Cool Cats Heating and Cooling, the coolest cats in town. CoolCatsJax.com.
If you've played sports or still lead an active life, chances are joint pain is nothing new. This is Dr. George Barry of Barry Orthopedics, and we like to be your option when it comes to taking care of your body and getting back in the game. From shoulders to elbows to hip and knee pain, Barry Orthopedics can diagnose and treat a variety of injuries that are causing you pain. We are Barry Orthopedics and online at barryorthopedics.com. With more than 30 years of experience, our team is here to care for your entire family.
Find out more at barryorthopedics.com. That's BAHRI orthopedics.com.
I'm Max Fink, and I'm your Gator Updater. Listen for the Gator Report several times a week on 1010XL.
Freshened up by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators, 1010XL.
Go, Gators! Hey, poker fans! The Best Bet Winter Open Series returns to Best Bet Jacksonville from January 23rd to February 2nd. Satellites into the $1,500 main event kick off January 4th. Take your shot at big payouts with 8 action-packed events and $500,000 in guarantees. Visit bestbetjax.com for more details. That's bestbetjax.com. And we'll see you at the Winter Open starting January 23rd.
I've known Glenn Coleman for a long time as a friend and a lawyer. Persistent and fair, Glenn and his firm have represented clients from North Florida and South Georgia for over 40 years in all kinds of personal injury cases. If I had such a case, call Glenn at Barnes & Cohen.
Hi, folks. I'm Frank Frangie for Ricketts Electric. Now, any good lineup needs power. When I needed a power connection for our new walk-off Charities baseball park, I found the perfect partner in Ricketts Electric. You're going to love these guys, I'm telling you. The Ricketts family has been providing commercial and residential electric service for years. So call my buddy Zach Ricketts today at 904-320-5960, and you can find them on Facebook as well. You will trust them. That's Ricketts Electric, the city's best power connection. Call them today at 320-5960.
Make a resolution this new year to send all of your friends or family a Kuhn Flowers floral arrangement. ET here with 1010XL. Okay, how about sending just one person you love a floral arrangement? Kuhn Flowers can handle it.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, Mia O'Brien, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you. We're going to keep talking about this Jaguars head coaching search as much as we hear and as much as we learn throughout the process. We do know that Robert Saleh interviewed earlier today. That's the 5th one that they've completed. And, oh, by the way, Mike McCarthy tomorrow will interview with the Bears.
Not with the Jaguars. He's not been requested. It's all right. Take a deep breath, everybody.
A former Jaguar did announce that he and his wife are expecting their first child. That would be the former Jaguars tight end Tim Tebow, I guess a little more famous for being the Florida quarterback. Yeah. But yes, he and
maybe more famous for being the Nice quarterback than the Jaguars.
Maybe more famous for being married to Miss Universe.
That's right. Demi Lee Tebow put out a video, and Tim Tebow shared it as well. Their maternity shoot that at the end of the video said that the baby is coming summer 2025. So coming in a few short months, we'll be here before you know it. And I'm excited for both of them. They've been married for a couple of years now. Yep. And we all know Tim is a fantastic person. I've never met Demi Lee, but people that I know that have met her say that she is absolutely fantastic and wonderful and all the things that you would expect being married to a guy as wonderful as Tim and all the
Is Joe Coward going to be the godfather? I'm just kidding. I had to ask. I know he's going to be stumping as soon as he gets on the air at 2 o'clock.
All right, time now for Taylor's Tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So we've had a lot of conversations about the Lions, about Brad Holmes, and about how they've just built everything in general. And I think the draft talk has been a topic of conversation. This goes back to when the Jags were playing the Lions, and we were having conversations then of looking back at their drafts and how everything has worked and how they didn't quite fit the mold of the way they drafted, but they drafted so intensely on need that it's all ended up panning out. Obviously, they are one of the better teams in the NFL right now, and even missing, as Jeremy Reisman just said, 16 defensive players on IR is insane. But I wanted to also take a look at I saw this tweet of the Rams, because the Rams are another team we've had conversations of, but in the opposite light. When they made that trade, and we've also talked about how it's probably one of the more even trades in NFL history when it comes to that Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade, because both teams, I would say, feel like they won and feel like they benefited off of that trade. I do think that we had so many talks, though, of like, what are the Rams going to do next, though? Because they have no money. They have no first-round draft picks. They barely have draft picks. It was like 4 draft picks one of the years and no first-rounder, and they had zero money to spend. And so we thought they were digging themselves into this hole of this very short-term success of, okay, you'll have 2-3 years, and you got to win because that's all you'll have. They've proven a lot of people wrong in that aspect. But I did want to start with some of the notable draft picks that they've had these last 3 years, which in these last 3 years, they have not had a single first-round pick, by the way. Well, this last year, obviously, with Jared Verse, but the previous 2 years to that, they didn't have a first-round pick.
They haven't had a first-round pick since
before that, but this is just the last 3 years of the tracking of it.
Right.
So Kyron Williams, they got in the 5th round. Puka Nacua, they got in the 5th round. Steve Avila, they got in the 2nd round. Bo Limmer, they got in the 6th round. Jared Verse, obviously, was the 1st rounder. Braden Fisk was the 2nd rounder. Kobe Turner, 3rd rounder. Byron Young, 3rd rounder. Kobe Durant, 4th rounder. Quentin Lake, 6th rounder. Cameron Kitchens, 3rd rounder. Jalen McCullough, how do you say his last name? I forget. But he was an undrafted free agent. So all of these guys, they have 5th and 6th rounders all over outside of Jared Verse and outside of Steve Avila. And all of these guys in this game last night, half of them you were talking about of making big plays. Bo Limmer was one of them. Obviously, Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. All of those guys' names were mentioned in the game last night of making big, impactful plays. And so I think the Rams at least have been able to prove that you don't need all of these high first, second, third round picks. You just need a guy who can actually evaluate talent and not ones that have these big, massive projects and whatever goes by size and everything you need to do. There's ways to draft without going into all of that. So I was looking at some of the stuff because obviously Les Snead is their general manager. He took over in 2012. After the Rams, the previous 10 years before Les Snead took over, they had one season over 500. They had multiple 1 and 2 win seasons. They had during that time, during that decade that before, and you can even go farther, but I just went the decade before of how bad it was. They had 2 seasons with 500, and then the one that was over 500. The rest were below 7 wins and multiple with 1 and 2 losses. Snead took over in 2012, where the Rams won the next 3 seasons 7, 7, and 6. So this is also preaching patience a little bit, because when guys take over organizations that are in such, you got to figure out the quarterback. You've got to figure out the offensive line. You have no defense. All of these pieces that he had to fix. So it took a few years to get there. But after the 7, 7, and 6 win seasons, and then one more 7, they were able to get Sean McVay, obviously, in 2017. Jared Goff was drafted in 2016, started in 2017. Since then, the past 8 seasons, they've had 1 season under 500. They've had 6 seasons in double digits, postseasons in half of those times, including 2 Super Bowl appearances and a Super Bowl win. So when you're looking at this, I think it shows there's not one formula for success, because we're looking at 2 teams that did it very different in the Detroit Lions and the Rams. The Detroit Lions had a ton of high draft picks. They were able to capitalize on those. They were able to develop these guys. Yes, they still had a hit on them, but they also hired the right coaches. A very different, Dan Campbell's very different than Sean McVay, but they're able to lead these teams to this place where you feel like the development's happening. The team trusts their coaches more than anything, and then people trust the general manager, and I think that's the big one. But the Rams were able to do this with not being able to get all of those top picks. So I don't think there's one recipe for this success. As we're starting to dissect all of these teams of like, how did the Chiefs do it? How did the Lions do it? How did the Rams do it? Everybody does it a little bit different, but I do think that the common denominator is finding the right play callers, the right head coaches, and having a general manager that knows how to evaluate talent.
Tremendous tangent, Taylor. And there's a couple other underlying storylines I want to add to this argument. Number one, Les Snead worked not only in Jacksonville once upon a time, in the early mid-90s, I should say. He was in Atlanta from 1998 to 2011. Do you know who else was in Atlanta and was plucked to become a general manager during that same time span? One, David Caldwell, who the year after Les Snead was plucked to go to the then St. Louis Rams, Dave Caldwell was plucked here because Thomas Dimitroff was part of the brain trust in Atlanta that was harvesting young talent and so many promising general managers. I also think it's important to note, Les Snead's first 2 draft classes, his first 2-3 seasons, as you alluded to, were mediocre.
Yep.
At least in the eyes of what Rams fans who 12 years earlier had gone to multiple Super Bowls, had the greatest show on turf, what their standard was. And I think when you look back at some of the names he drafted, look, I mean, he took Aaron Donald at 13th overall. I think, he also took Greg Robinson at 2nd overall in that class. I think anyone looking back in hindsight is like, oh my goodness, how did Aaron Donald fall to 13th? That's a great evaluation by Les Snead. But when you look at some of his other draft picks, a lot of depth guys, but it wasn't like he was hitting any home runs up until that 3rd draft class. Sean McVay was asked when he was hired if he wanted to continue working with Les Snead. We look back on it now a decade later and we say, well, duh, they're bros and they work in perfect harmony. They were asked, though. The question was asked of a young 30-year-old first-time head coach. Will you work with the incumbent general manager?
Was this via Zoom?
Yeah. I don't know if they had Zoom back then, but I think we did, because I used to, with my talent coach, I used to use like the primitive Zoom. I think it was called like Share Spaces. I forget what it's called. Anyways, but just file that away. A 30-year-old first-time head coach that the Rams were taking the biggest of swings on was asked, do you want to keep the guy who's only gotten us 7 wins the last few years and whose talent evaluation we're kind of questioning outside of Aaron Donald? Just file that one away
Ponder on that
when
one.
we reflect upon not only the current coaching carousel, but also the fact that they have now been to 2 Super Bowls and they've reinvented themselves in the last 2-3 years. And also, yes, they did say, bleep those picks.
Yeah.
We're going out and we're getting vested veterans who can lead us to a Super Bowl.
One day, a Super Bowl will come to Jacksonville. I hope. I pray. I hope. I'll just keep hoping. All right, we've got one segment to go. You are listening to Helmets and Heels. It is an Epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday. You can find them online, epichvacservice.com, or call 904-859-EPIC. Make sure you mention 1010XL for exclusive discounts, and there are discounts for military, police, and first responders. It's 1010XL 92.5 FM. Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. Before termites attack your home or business and cause costly damage, Terminix it. Terminix stops termites in my home fast. These destructive pests may have been around for millions of years, but before they show up, so does Terminix. And their time is up. Don't live with a termite problem. I certainly wasn't going to. Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. Terminix.com.
What's happening, fellas? It's your boy E to the T here, and it's a brand new year, which means a brand new you, especially in the bedroom. So if you're ready to make 2025 the year to level up where it counts, let me make it a little easier for you. Get yourself some Blue Chew. They've got a chewable tablet that has the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Staxin. That means you're getting top-tier performance, my boy, without leaving the house. Blue Chew comes right to your front door in a discreet package, so your neighbors won't even know what's going on. But you will. No doctor's offices and no pharmacy run. Just licensed medical providers helping you find the right prescription. And guess what? They're made right here in the USA. Oh, and did I mention it's free? Yeah, you heard me. Your first month is free. So what you waiting for? Visit BlueChew.com and get a consultation. And start your year off with confidence to keep things interesting in that bedroom. Get that Blue Chew at BlueChew.com, baby. Let's make this year unforgettable.
Coke Florida congratulates the Jacksonville Jaguars on a great 2024 season. As the local Coca-Cola bottler celebrating 10 years of business, Coke Florida is proud to be the Jags' official beverage partner. From the season kickoff to the final touchdown, Coke Florida's 5,000 associates and passionate fans have cheered on the Jags all season long. Coke Florida and the Jags tackle game day with great taste.
This is Tony Baselli, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I was known for protecting our quarterback. These days, I'm extending that protection to a different arena, your home. I have partnered with Heritage Roofing of North Florida, your premier local roofers with over 25 years of experience. Heritage is your go-to roofer for hurricane preparation with same-day inspections and estimates. They also work with all insurance companies. Let Heritage Roofing of North Florida safeguard your home and family. Visit heritagenfl.com for your free estimate today.
State license CCC 1335410.
Are you an experienced plumber or welder with MedGas certification and you're tired of being undervalued? It's time to make a move to Local 234 plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians. With the best pay in the business, you'll earn $36.50 an hour. With benefits, that's almost $50. It's not just a job, it's a career that values you. Join the team that's got your back. Local 234, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit UA234.com to send your resume today.
Equal opportunity employer.
It's about the hunt.
Captain Kevin Favor here with Captain Kirk and Jeff Loggerman.
We take you from the water to the woods on the Nimnit Outdoors Show. Presented by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning.
Let's go to the woods, y'all.
Saturday mornings from 7 to 10 on 1010XL.
You don't have to be a football star to get a signing bonus. The team at Republic Services needs your skills, and they're paying up to $5,000 for you to join the roster. You'll be joining a winner. As an essential business, the Republic Services trucks have not stopped rolling with hourly and weekly pay and better benefits and vacation packages than the rest of the league. Driver trainees, $1,000 sign-on bonus. CDL drivers, $3,000. Diesel mechanics, $5,000 bonus. Join the winning team at Republic Services today. Visit republicservices.com.
Equal opportunity employer.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
When you roll into a convenience store for some cold Bud Light, you want to make sure it's, well, cold. Check out the big coolers at Circle K. They make sure it's chilled and ready to go for the big game or party. Swing by Circle K and pick up some cold Bud Light.
Family owned and managed for 20 plus years, Hidden Hills Golf Club boasts a unique and welcoming atmosphere. Visit us at hiddenhillsgc.com to book your next round on our Arnold Palmer signature course. You'll be glad you did.
Don't go through another year with all that high interest debt. Let Loan Pronto wipe it all out now. Hey, it's Prosser here, and Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan makes it easy to pay off all your credit cards or tackle that 2025 home improvement project. Get cash in your pocket fast. No appraisals, no paperwork, no waiting. Loan Pronto's AI-driven tech gets you approved and funded in as little as 1 day. One client got $150,000 approved in under 24 hours, paid off all their credit cards, 2 cars, and personal loans, saving over $1,500 per month. With low fixed rates and lightning fast transfers, you can do it too. Consolidate debt, improve your home, take control of your finances. Imagine being credit card debt-free by this time next week. You can. Don't wait. Call Loan Pronto now, 904-999-1508, or visit loanpronto.com. Get your free quote now with no hard credit pull at 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. Now, the Cool Down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Needless to say, we've spent a good portion of today's program discussing coaches in the National Football League. I did tease that I have an NBA coach who I want to talk about. But before I get to that, a former NFL head coach stole the show, in my opinion, last night. If you are online, Jay Gruden, who's probably listening to this program somewhere right now in Atlantic Beach. So, hi, Jay. Hi, one-time Jaguars offensive coordinator, former head coach of the Washington football team, who tweeted last night, Sean McVay versus Kevin O'Connell tonight. I hired them both. Bet I don't get mentioned once. LOL, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. I had to make sure that we fit that into today's program because it's elite content from Jay Gruden, who now is doing some great stuff with Underdog Fantasy. Back to the National Basketball Association. Everyone wants to talk about what the Lions have been able to do with 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball sidelined due to injury, and why Aaron Glenn should be in consideration for a head coaching vacancy somewhere in the National Football League. It's been documented, but I think it bears repeating. Last night, the Orlando Magic did not have Franz Wagner. They did not have Jalen Suggs. They did not have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They did not have Mo Wagner, who's done for the year. They did not have Tristan Da Silva, no Jet Howard, no Goga either. By the way, Paolo Banchero is back but is on a minute restriction. The Orlando Magic not only played, but they won an NBA basketball game last night with 8 players. That is why Jamal Mosley is the NBA Coach of the Year. I don't care that it's January 14th. We've sat here on this program before. In case you missed it over the holidays, myself, Taylor, RJ, Luke Hetrick joined us. We had a great workshop when we talked about culture and identity and what they've been able to do in Orlando. We tried to compare it a little bit to the Detroit Lions. We tried to compare maybe the predecessors to Mosley as more of a similar to what occurred here in Jacksonville, maybe Doug Peterson-esque. We ultimately, I think, settled on the Lions build being very similar. The complete teardown of saying the enemy of good, which is what the Magic were when they were a 7 or an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. The enemy of good is great, and we want to be great. They tore down the roster, much like the Lions, much like the Rams for that matter. Yeah. The talent evaluation was scrutinized. People couldn't believe Franz Wagner was taken with what, the number 6 overall pick in the NBA draft. They couldn't believe that Jet Howard was a first-round pick. But all the pieces fit perfectly as cogs into the machine. And even when you don't have all the cogs, because that toughness and identity was built before anyone actually got there, that is why the Magic are succeeding. And I just wanted to give Mosley his props because, I mean, take everything I just said out of it. You had 8 players. Yeah. And you won a basketball game. And your 8th player was on a minutes restriction. And he's, oh, by the way, your best player.
I want to be done with the conversation of culture and identity because we never have to talk about it here in Jacksonville ever again. I literally just want to talk about wins, losses, X's and O's because the Jaguars are always over 500.
Yeah.
And then if they don't win in the playoffs, we can talk about the nitty-gritty of should the head coach remain? Like, that's what the Steelers are doing, right? Because their team's never below 500. They don't have to talk about...
Should we fire our head coach that gets us to the postseason every single year?
Exactly. Like, they don't have to talk about culture and identity. They have to talk about maybe a different quarterback leading their franchise. But they don't have to talk about those buzzwords that we have to hear because this team cannot have sustained success. It has not had sustained success since the 90s, and I'm tired of it.
I saw an interesting comparison on Twitter the other day because we've had the conversation about Mike Tomlin a lot. And I think that I see Steelers fans, there was people with signs at this playoff game saying, like, Mike Tomlin's got to go. And I'm like, I could never imagine being at a playoff game protesting to fire your coach. But that's, I guess, a different whole world than we're used to being in. And I think that people that have had somebody like Mike Tomlin that's been there so long, you don't know what it's like to have to go through a coaching search. You don't know how hard it is to actually hit on a coach that can get you above 500 consistently. I get there's frustrations when it comes... when it becomes stagnant and you do feel like, okay, cool, we win 10 games and get to the postseason, but what happens after that?
We're
like, it's about championships. And, a lot of people criticized Shad Khan on his comments when he made the comments about the goals being hitting the playoffs. And people are like, the goal should be the championship. Like, that's what you want to do is get the Super Bowl trophy, get the Lombardi. But I think that somebody posted, though, and they were talking about Mike McCarthy, and they said Mike McCarthy is the offensive version of Mike Tomlin. And it was interesting. And at first I was like, that's weird. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, it is kind of similar. Like, they have this track record of being coaches. And then Mike Tomlin had Ben Roethlisberger forever. So he had all of these winning seasons, and it felt like it was because of Ben Roethlisberger. Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers. So it felt like, okay, well, he has Aaron Rodgers. Of course he's going to be able to succeed. But then the Steelers go through this carousel of quarterbacks of trying to figure it out, and he's still able to get above 500. Mike McCarthy has Dak Prescott, who I think is better than what Mike Tomlin's had to work with, but he's always had this kind of thing hovering over him that he can't win the big games, and he starts to collapse at the end of seasons. And can Dak ever really be that guy? And you get there, and again, like, you have Dak, who last year had one of his best NFL career seasons he's ever had with Mike McCarthy, and then they get to the playoffs and die. And it's like, it
die. Their playoff hopes die. Apart. No, their playoff game last year was horrendous.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was really bad, and Dak certainly didn't play well. But you eventually get to a point as a franchise or as a college football program as well where, and Georgia did this with Mark Richt, that's the most famous example of it actually working, and they hired Kirby Smart, fired Richt, hired Smart, won the 2 national championships, hadn't won a national championship in 40 years. And so that's the example of it working.
Yeah.
But there are lots of other examples, I feel like, where, like, if the Steelers, walked away from Mike Tomlin and they get the next head coach that has never been a head coach before, for instance, a young offensive coordinator, a young defensive coordinator, and they put him in there, and then that person doesn't have the stability that Tomlin has, and then they could toil away for years upon years and say, we should have kept Tomlin, because it's not that easy.
No.
Trust us, it's not that easy. Time now for our Terminix Pest of the Day. Terminix handles the pest control for all of our listeners' favorite event venues, so of course they can handle yours as well. Came out to our house last week, haven't seen a single ant since, so we certainly appreciate them. Visit them online, Terminix.com, TerMinix.com. All right, so everyone has seen and probably heard by this point, but the pest of the day today is the Eagles fan. Older gentleman who was obviously caught in that viral video harassing the young female Packers fan. Since then, at least the good job to the Eagles is they have banned him from all future games. Okay. But just don't harass. Like, I feel like the pest of the day each day is going to teach people a lesson, right? Like, don't sexually harass your employees. We had that one last week. Don't send people into these, like, or don't scream at people and send other people these videos, basically, that then now you're going to be caught for life and your life's going to be ruined. Don't harass people, verbally abuse people. Just don't do it. And you know what? Your life will turn out better. But I do want to give a shout out on the complete flip side. And Taylor, I'm sure
first, before you do that, Lauren, the irony is also not lost on me that not only was this individual identified, his employer was also identified.
So that's going to probably ruin his life.
He works at BCT Partners. For those of you who wonder what BCT Partners does, they provide insight about diverse people that lead to equity.
Oh.
Just put that out there.
Taylor, I'm sure you saw this. The Iceman treated lots of J-Fun families on Friday night to a VIP experience. And so one special kid got to drop the puck with his family, but lots of them got to get autographs and meet some of the Icemen. They got to give high fives ahead of the game. I just loved that.
I love it. Yeah, the Icemen do a phenomenal job with everything that and I've mentioned it a billion times by now. If you've never been to an Iceman game, go, because they are a blast. They do a great job when it comes to just like in game. Even if you don't know the game and you're not completely interested, there's still so much. They're so good when it comes to the music and when it comes to in between periods, things they do and getting the crowd going with the chants that all of the Iceman season ticket holders do and all of that stuff. But they do a lot of stuff around the community too. Things like that. They'll send players out all the time too. Obviously Wilson's Children's Hospital and J-Fun's a big part of that. Things like that. So it's really fun because I think that hockey in general is growing in Florida, and it helps that the Panthers and the Lightning have won Stanley Cups, and so that does bring more attraction here. But even now, we're getting youth teams in Jacksonville, and so these kids at a young age now are having this opportunity to learn a sport that 5 years ago you weren't really able to learn in Jacksonville.
Last time you were there, you told me you spilled maybe a little bit of dark
red
liquid
wine all over my white jean jacket. I was so upset. And I was like sitting in my seat too after I already spilled it. I was like, okay, I spilled red wine on my white jean jacket. And then they score 3 goals within like 4 minutes, and I'm like, I'm gonna be covered in wine by the end of this game.
Did you get it out of your jacket?
I tried. It's like a little bit like I know where it is,
now
so I see it. Yeah, I should just make it tie-dye.
Let's say hello to Matt Hayes. I'm sure he's done a lot of tie-dye in his life.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Service by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
Matt, I'm not going to ask you about tie-dye. I am going to ask you about the...
Hey, I've done tie-dye before.
Well, of course. We all have, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. Usually, I feel like it's more when you're younger, like T-shirt, you used to tie it in.
Matt has daughters, like he knows.
Yeah. I also did it when I was in elementary school, too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I will say, because you just sat in that chair, which always gives you a hard time, and you said it feels like you're on Thunder Mountain.
I had to switch.
Like what's the Snow White, the mine train or something?
Yeah,
that
whips you
back
around.
And forth and
Well, and that's why, because I was just at Disney on Saturday, and my neck is so sore from Space Mountain that jerks you around so much. I'm like, I'm getting old because these roller coasters are hurting my neck.
Welcome to life.
Yeah.
You both looked at me. I'm not old. I don't know what you're talking about. Matt, when it comes to the upcoming national championship, I feel like one of the biggest storylines is the fact that you have 2 transfer quarterbacks competing for the national championship. You also have Marcus Freeman competing against his alma mater. I feel like the line is a little big at 8.
It was 9.5. It started out 9.5.
Yeah, it's gone a little bit down, but I still feel like
it
that's...
dropped a little. The way Notre Dame has played the entire playoff, I think it's crazy to have that kind of line. That's such a big line. But you always go back to Vegas knows something. Like they've made a lot of money and they've built those huge buildings in that city and for a reason. So yeah, it's odd. For any of us looking at it, it's odd. But they know something.
They also have been wrong about the last 2 because by game time, Penn State was favored to win and Georgia was favored to win, and that
both
obviously
by just a point.
Yeah.
Speaking of Notre Dame, a little bit of somewhat breaking news in the last 10 minutes, Matt, as Tommy Rees has agreed to become the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator. Speaking of Notre Dame, I assume. Wow. Is that Jalen Milroe's music walking through that door in the 3rd or 4th round of the NFL draft? What say you?
I think Jalen Milroe is going to go to the combine and he's going to run like a 4.3 something, and he's going to throw the ball all over the place, and somebody's going to pick him in the 1st round. That's what I think.
You do.
I don't think he's worthy of that, but I think someone will pick him.
We all know that quarterbacks at times get overdrafted, and this year the crop of quarterbacks isn't as good as what people thought going in, whether it's a Quinn Ewers. We don't know what he's going to do, and maybe he's not going to be as high as
I think he stays,
thought.
by the way.
You think he stays, but not at Texas?
Texas?
No, not at Texas.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a bidding war between Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia.
Oh, not the 2 that were speculated to potentially be involved. Oregon, North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't think. No, Oregon's fine with who they got. They've got Dante Moore. They're set with him. But yeah, I think it's those 3. I think it's because.
And Quinn started at Ohio State.
Yes, he did.
So have we ever had a quarterback go back to where they originally started, other than maybe Stetson Bennett? But that was a different situation.
That was JUCO. Yeah,
that was different.
No, in fact, I have a story getting ready to publish at USA Today right now that all the Georgia fans who blamed Carson Beck for this season and that Carson was this and that and he was selfish and he's driving around his Lamborghini. Guess who the first team was to reach out to Carson when he hit the portal? Georgia.
Right.
The first team to offer him.
They're also mad that he's leaving, even though they were mad at him for the half a season where now they're mad he's leaving. The fans are just insufferable.
Right.
All right,
so
Matt,
there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, to your point, yes, and quarterbacks, and there always will be, especially with the transfer portal and the way free player movement is.
But with that said, that also suggests why Jalen Milroe going to the draft actually might not be the worst thing for him, because it's a weak class that's actually entering the National Football League at the position.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but that's a big stretch for an NFL franchise to think Jalen Milroe is going to be a guy that can immediately step in. Like if you're drafting a guy in the first round, he's a guy you want to play right away.
He
or
can
as
go
soon
hang
as
out with
possible.
Tommy Reese.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's like
possible.
a day 2, day 3 pick. Jalen Hurts was drafted in the second round, and he didn't technically start right away.
Somebody will take a chance on him. I'm telling you, someone will. It may only be through the second round. You're right, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if it was the first round. Anyway, today on XLP, yes, has one man lost more money in 2 games than Sam Darnold. That'll be one of our topics. We'll talk about the playoffs. We'll talk about the college football playoff and the Notre Dame and Ohio State game. It's going to be exciting, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'm stressed already.
I think Notre Dame plays a lot better than people think they're going to play.
All right, sounds good. We'll be listening. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for us today. For Taylor Dahl, for Mia O'Brien, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talk, and we will talk to you tomorrow. But, of course, don't go anywhere. XL Primetime is next.